Well, the Trump administration had cleared the way for people to print plastic guns on 3D printers, and those weapons can go right through metal detectors without security knowing a single thing. Who thought exactly this was a good idea? Also, the White House considering another tax cut for the wealthiest among us, and it could do it by circumventing Congress. We'll take a look at the dollars and cents of the plan and why to some this makes no fiscal sense. Then midterm watch, we're going to show you what Democrats have to do if they want to retake control of the House. We'll speak with a group here who's pounding the pavement trying to rally Democrats across the country in those swing districts. Evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks for joining us tonight. And we begin this evening with a story, to me, that was almost too bizarre to be true. And frankly, it was until just about an hour ago. Starting at midnight tonight, Americans would have been able to legally create guns in their homes using 3D printers, and those weapons would be able to evade metal detectors. It got worse. Trump administration were the ones who made this all possible. Now, the reaction had been swift. Several states, including New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, sued to block this. Listen to what the Connecticut Attorney General George Jepsen had to say.
This is incredibly alarming and disturbing. To me, the most dangerous thing is that people who want to have these guns will be able to get past security, whether it's airport security, so the risk of a hijacked plane goes up, political events where there's frequently security. You'd be able to slip past with a gun and perhaps assassinate a public figure. Terrorists will want them, criminals will want them, and no good can come of it.
No good can come of it. New York Attorney General Barbara Underwood, she released this statement before the halt that came down at 5 o'clock this afternoon. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. She said it is simply crazy to give criminals the tools to build untraceable, undetectable 3D printed guns at the touch of a button. Yet that's exactly what this Trump administration is allowing. Across the river in New Jersey, the state's attorney general says people won't be able to access the printable guns' computer files, and a judge will rule on this in September. Now, the backstory on how we got to where we are today: a gun able to evade metal detectors, that's easy to make, and one that anyone can get. It'll soon be a reality. That after a settlement between the Trump administration and its distributor made them legal starting tomorrow.
It is unlawful. Frankly, it is terrifying.
I think it's a more important win for the First Amendment.
The president is waiting carefully, tweeting that he spoke to the NRA and, quote, "I am looking into 3D plastic guns being sold to the public." The controversy, it centers around Cody Wilson.
I believe in the universal access to arms.
Here he is making headlines in 2012 with his plans to make guns using a 3D printer. Within a year, his nonprofit Defense Distributed is publishing downloadable instructions for how to make a 3D gun.
That this thing will be completely unable to be regulated.
In 2013, the State Department forced Wilson to stop, saying he was violating international traffic in arms regulations. Wilson sued, with help from the Second Amendment Foundation, saying sharing his plans for 3D printed guns is a First Amendment issue, and the files are protected speech, they said.
It's always been the law in the United States you can make your own gun for yourself.
5 years later, the State Department settles with Wilson in a statement saying his files are, quote, of a type that does not offer a critical military or intelligence advantage to the United States. But gun control advocates are calling these guns a threat to public safety.
You are not safe, I'm not safe. We must act now, you all. This is serious. We cannot allow this to happen, not in our country.
Let me bring in our panel right now. We have Shelley Mayer. She's a Democratic New York State Senator representing a big chunk of Westchester County. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. Conservative strategist Bill O'Reilly and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. So, okay, with the blessing of the administration, we got to late this afternoon. We're starting at midnight tonight, less than 6 hours from as I'm speaking to you. All of a sudden, there were people who were going to be able to do downloadable files. And then all of a sudden, because of the Attorney General's, but more specifically the New Jersey Attorney General, Andrew, we got a change, or at least a temporary halt.
Yeah, the New Jersey Attorney General was, and I'm not sure if he actually went to court or was threatening to go to court and get an injunction, but before that was necessary, Cody Wilson, the man that you saw in the piece from Texas, agreed not to post the materials or the information online for a month. So, and the court has ordered him to keep his word in this. So there are penalties if he decides to go back on his word at this point. So at least we bought a month, 5 weeks of the plans not being posted.
Just so everybody knows, we were less than 6 hours from this. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me how this is a good idea, okay, from becoming law. Now, I want to give the kicker to this. So the administration, this wasn't this guy in Texas independently doing. The administration reversed the prior administration's policy that put a stop to this, because this guy's been trying to do this for more than 10 years. Under the Obama administration said, no, you can't do this because of all the reasonings that we mentioned here, and including, you can't, you have to have some checks and balances on who gets the gun, and this would obviously void that if you can just download a file. That all said, Shelley, I want you to take a look at what the president had to say, again, late yesterday. This is his quote. I am looking into 3D plastic guns being sold to the public. Already spoke to NRA. Doesn't seem to make much sense. So I don't know what's more frightening here. One, that, and just talked to our friend John Faso up in the 19th District, he was convinced to vote for the health care repeal. He votes for it. The next day the president said, oh, this is a cruel bill, when he personally asked him to go vote for the thing. So either he's testing the political winds and sells out anyone who does something, including his own administration, or, and this is equally frightening, he didn't know that we were changing policy and learned about it on Fox and Friends or something, and then sends out a tweet. Is this one of the craziest stories you've ever heard, even in the context of the last 2 years?
Well, one thing that I think you didn't know, which I saw in Attorney General Underwood's press release, is that the Trump administration itself changed course. They were going along with the position that this posed a national security threat. They, all of a sudden, one day settled the case with this guy and allowed him to go forward, according to the Attorney General Underwood. So I think the thing that is incredible to me is the Trump administration basically gave a green light to these folks. This thing could be produced starting tonight, had there not been this change, actually produced at home by someone who has a 3D printer. A bullet can be shot from it, right? Not traceable. And tomorrow, the police department of the city of New York or any police department is not going to know what the heck to do. It's unbelievable politics. It's a disgrace to the parents of children who have been killed by guns in this country to allow, and to all of us, to allow this to go forward.
The senator makes a great point that it's not just that they're undetectable and you can't find them in a metal detector. That's serious enough if this thing was allowed.
But the bullets you can.
But you can't trace it because guns have specific pin slotting. That's what they use when they're doing analysis afterwards on CSI that we were used to. And because it's downloaded from a printer, you can't trace it. So if you wind up using the gun, you couldn't even trace back the bullet.
Bill, think about this. We're parents, okay? In every context of the way, our kid can download an app. So now I know these printers aren't cheap here, but that's not the way we should look at this. We have a 3D printer in our house. Our 10-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever, could download this and no one would be the wiser. One. Two, we want to take our kids to a concert or to a ball game or something. No ball detector's going to do it. I got to go pay a traffic ticket in court or something. Metal detectors, it's pointless. I can keep going down the line. And how about a convicted violent offender who can now, in his basement, print this thing out? And again, we are all none the wiser. How did this make any sense? This isn't about the Second Amendment.
Yeah, I think a couple of things here. A, I think it's certainly problematic. B, it's the future. It's there, and try and get the genie back in the bottle. But C, I had a different take on Donald Trump's tweet about the NRA. I think this may be most threatening to the gun manufacturers in America. This is a business disruptor, an industry disruptor. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some movement within the NRA to kill this thing.
But Bill, why then, and that's a great point, I haven't heard that made, why then would the administration unilaterally reverse a policy. They didn't have to get involved in this. They could have stayed away from it completely. The last guys did it. They wouldn't have had to have a statement. They wouldn't have had a retraction. They wouldn't have had to do anything. Are you telling me it's so crazy and rogue in that place that people are changing policy and it's not going up the food chain?
Right, and the other thing is, if they're going to make a dramatic policy change like this, you need to give states time to adjust their laws, require metal in the construction. You know, things that would set off triggers. You have to rewrite 50 states of laws. Every state needs to redo it. But just to drop it like that, it's not going to get handled right.
Dom, this is political malpractice. Forget about the morality, the practicality of it. Who does this? I mean, seriously, if somebody at the city council did this, we'd be saying, that moron, you know? But this is a federal administration. I mean, they did this all to themselves, and thank God the AG stepped in here. I mean, have you seen anything so ham-handed?
Absolutely not, Richard. This is incompetence. This is what happens when a political novice who can put on a good show decides to run for president and sell the American people a bill of goods, and then, oops, I won. But
it's something more than that, Dom. Somebody that works for him had to go through a secretary, in this case of state, okay, because it had to do with terrorism. Mike Pompeo had to know about this.
I don't know if the Secretary of State has to know.
He had to have.
But some people along the line. But this is the Justice Department. This is what happens when you don't fill half the jobs because you can't get them approved through Washington. There is a cause and a reaction to everything.
So you think it's only one of two, door number one or door number two? Door number one is people are just making up stuff as they go along and he doesn't even know what his people are doing. Or two, he knew about it, just like I can tell you about 3 other cases I've seen in 2 years, where all of a sudden he said, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. All of a sudden reaction is bad. And he turns around and says, gambling in River City? Who knew, right?
Door number one.
You think so?
Door number one.
Richard,
which I think is scarier than even door number two.
One thought for New York, and I'll mention it while the senators are at the table, is New York State outlawed Saturday night specials in 1968. Mm-hmm. Maybe you classify them as Saturday night specials if it's made through a printing thing. But again, the states are behind. If you drop this thing in and make it legal today, how long does that take? The legislature's not even in session.
The unbelievability of this is that this, again, was a self-manufactured controversy that didn't need to happen. Nobody, including, I think you make a great point, even the NRA didn't even want this.
But to that point, what was striking to me in that tweet is that he called the NRA. He didn't call the Justice Department and say, please put a hold on this while we review.
Senator is correct.
Let's, what is the status of this case? I mean, I know he might not put it in a tweet, but to me, as a chief executive, like you say, either the incompetence, the irresponsibility at something that is at the highest level of impact. This is like essential things. Guns, as you know, during my campaign, there was no issue more important to parents than gun safety.
Now, we go from guns and safety here to dollars and cents. When we come back after the break here, you may have seen the story today. Trump administration is considering another tax cut. This one would also benefit not just the wealthy, but the uber wealthy. Obviously drive up the deficit to the tune of $100 billion, but there's a kicker. They want to do it without Congress getting involved.